We're here.
Yes, we are.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dale Maxwell. You have found Kickassery. And what do we do at Kickassery? We talk to amazing people like this young lady that's sharing the screen with me today. We have Theresa Miller. And I have a little thing to read, and I goofed it up really bad when we did this a few minutes ago. So let's see how ridiculous this is. Theresa Miller lives in a small town in Idaho with 4 cows, 3 beehives, 2 cats, and 1 husband. Numbers subject to change at any time. She believes in the healing magic of food, cat purrs, and human attention. In the summer, you will find her outdoors, gardening, hanging out with her bees, picking huckleberries, and writing. In the winter, you will find her hiding from the cold, cooking, sewing, writing, and anything else that catches her fancy and keeps her close to the wood stove. Did I do better?
Perfect.
Yay. You know why that sounded really good? Is because I didn't write it. You wrote it.
Wait, I believe you had trouble with huckleberries before. That was a word that just wasn't happening.
And what was the other thing? Catches. It was catses.
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 Well, we're already talking about cats.
So is this going to bleep it out? It is going to bleep it out. Oh, the background doesn't like your thing. Hold on. This is the biggest flex that I have.
Okay,
personally.
there you go. Yeah.
You are my biggest flex, like one of my biggest flexes. I live vicariously through you.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
That's great.
No pressure. No
pressure whatsoever. And when you're living vicariously through me, you can live through, the high points and not the drudgery parts,
So here's my opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I do is I have the opportunity to meet insanely incredible people like Theresa here. They don't tell me to go away and go stick my head in the sand. They allow me to still be a part of their life. And this allows me to then get to know these people, to learn and to grow through sometimes just association, but through true friendship and camaraderie. Melissa, I said Melissa because I just had a brain fart. Theresa, the last 5 years, it's been over 5 years since you, Matt Lamont, John Logan, and I sat down in the museum, or was it the library?
It's the museum that's in the old library building. So
okay, so I'm not wrong.
You're right. You're right about everything.
And we sat down. I was driving through salmon. Theresa's a salmonite. And we all sat down and had a conversation on, well, a lot of it was BS, but a lot of it was on writing, self-publishing, because you are all 3 of you phenomenal authors, phenomenal writers. And since that time we sat down and talked, what has happened to you? What's the last 5 years done for you, to you, around you? I don't know.
I really thought about wearing the same sweater so we'd have a sense of continuity. So the video came up and I'm like, well, that sweater is something that has not changed in my life. So since then, I developed a chronic illness. I have fibromyalgia. And so there was a lot of going through things, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, because it's not a super easy to diagnose thing. So there's lots of testing and lots of, no, that's, well, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's not any of these things here or any of these things here. Let's go to another doctor who's going to test me for the same things. Yeah, so that was an experience. And then I've moved. We've moved out to my husband's parents' house, and we're going to fix it up so it can be sold for more. He'd like to stay here, but we only own half of it, so we'd have to come up with that extra. But and we are remodeling our house in town to rent it out. So, yes, and also I wrote and published my first book. There's kind of a funny story about how that came about. It's all intertwined. So,
as life is.
Yeah, when I was very in some of my worst days, and I was mostly housebound. And John Logan, who was in our first chat, he was at the grocery store and he saw a book that looked like I would enjoy it, and he bought it for me. And it turns out it was about an Idaho kitchen witch. And he didn't even know it was Idaho. Well, I enjoyed it, but the entire time I read it, all I could think was, I could do better. I could do this better.
I love it.
And so then I kind of ended up giving up on the writing I'd been kind of struggling with, and just taking this on as to bring back the joy of writing. It didn't matter if I ever did anything with it. And it was just because it would be fun. And it has been.
So, speaking of John,
Hi,
he
John.
loves the book. So yes, okay. So I remember okay. So let's back this up a second. So I only make it through salmon a couple times a year, and whenever I make it to salmon, I put out the call. Hey, I'm in town. Okay, it's super selfish of me, and I accept that. But I'm like, hey, I'm in town. Anybody want to come have lunch or hang out for a little bit because I need to squish your face. And I remember this was quite a few years ago at Bertram's there in Salmon.
Yeah,
And
I remember that one.
for some reason, either I think life, and I didn't realize where you were at health wise. And you came in on crutches. And I'm like,
I think it was a cane, but
a
yeah.
cane. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
You're right. And I'm like, what's up? What's going on? And you're like, today's a good day. I'm not in my wheelchair. I'm like, oh, okay, hold the phone. What?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
And to see you go from that and talking to you and messaging and hearing, how bad it had gotten and how, let's be honest, you or anyone else, when our bodies fail, it's really hard on our minds as well.
It is. So my kind of feeling of isolation happened before COVID, because it started June 19th of 2019.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And to see you go from that to where you're at now is so incredible, Theresa, and such an inspiration. And
well, thank you, but it's not all me, because modern medicine is awesome.
Okay, that's fair.
Right.
And you had to do your work though.
I did. So I went to a pain team in the Salt Lake area. I think it was Logan, Utah. And there you deal with 3 people. So there's your doctor, who deals with medications and trying things and seeing, adjusting doses. And then you deal with the physical therapist, who deals with brain retraining and to break the pain loop. And then you deal with a therapist. I think they're billed as a social worker, but it was a therapist. And I at first thought that the therapist was the only one not doing a job. You didn't have homework. We weren't talking about trauma in my life or anything like that. And it turns out he was just really teaching me to give myself grace and to not be having what's attacking me be me. Like, my nervous system already feels under attack. How about we don't add to that?
I love it.
So yeah. But then I had to, I think it's really easy to just want to take the pill and just, that's as far as you go. But I really did have to do the physical therapy and the figuring out how this all works to the best of my ability, and figuring out ways to calm my nervous system. So meditation and yoga and different things like that. When I first started, the only exercise that I could consistently tolerate was actually watching, like looking at pictures of knees and figuring out which was the right knee, whether it was a right knee or a left knee. And that doesn't sound like exercise. but it brings your mind to that part enough that you kind of can feel it. You know how sometimes you feel other people's pain, or you
Mhm.
hear about something and you can feel it. So
Right.
we started at where I wasn't actually moving at all. And then we worked
Wow.
up into some, like chair type of exercises, and just progressed from there. So I don't think I'm ever going to do another half marathon again, but that's okay.
You're up and you're moving
I
and
am.
you're active. And it was this last summer I had the opportunity. Once again, I was coming through Sam and I was like, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to be here. I'm not going to get to see you for a couple years." And you looked amazing. The
Oh, thank
tallest you've
you.
ever stood, the brightest your eyes have been, because I hadn't seen you physically for a while.
Well, it turns out that things like meditation and yoga are actually good for you, aside from stopping some of the pain,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So,
So I'm so happy and I'm so impressed with your transition from pre-diagnosis, because yeah, I've known several people between fibromyalgia and then autoimmune diseases. Those are
right.
some of the hardest ones to diagnose because it's all over the place. And going from that to where you're at now, and now you're a published author and you've been on
Well,
speaking panels
in
and
some way, I think that getting sick like that helped, because we adjusted and adapted at work, so I only work part-time. So then I have a little bit more time to do, things like writing that, because you're trying to take care of so many things in life besides even your full-time job, that it was hard for me to find time. So it took so long to write a book, because I was working on it maybe 3 hours a week, and that just doesn't work very well.
yeah.
It's better than none, but
So now that you are a published author, you are in that elite category because not everybody can say that they
that's
have
true.
a
That's true.
book that has been published. Self-published, publisher doesn't matter because you
Okay.
self-published, correct?
I did. I actually had been going back and forth on which one I wanted to do, and I had got sort of very excited at MissCon the year before. I was sitting next to this just absolutely delightful young lady that publishes a book a month, and I said, "Well, gosh, if she can do that,
A
I can."
month?
A month. That makes no sense. My brain cannot comprehend that, but she does. Her name is Katie Cross. She's amazing. I mean, I got one of her books just to prove to myself that you couldn't put out any kind of quality at that. I was wrong. So it's actually quite good. Um,
Okay.
but I got sort of taken over. And she can do this. I can have my book ready for next MissCon, since I've already like partially through writing it. And so I stood up there, or sat up there, whatever, at the panel, and announced to everybody that my book would be available for purchase at next MissCon. And I wanted to, keep that promise. And there's no way I had time to find an agent, shop it around, go through all the steps, because it can take up to a year after your finished manuscript to go through all that
Yeah.
process. And that's up to, it doesn't have to be that. It can vary according to people I know. I guess I've never done that part of it, but I've talked to a lot of people who do.
So tell me about the cover of this book.
So the cover artist is Summer's daughter,
Who is
Sarah
also an ass
Chaffin.
kicker?
Yes, she really is. And then John Logan helped me with the parts I'm pointing at my screen, as if that makes a difference. The placement of the title and some color, so he helped me finalize it. So yeah, I had two really amazing people do this.
I love
And
it.
yeah, there are some changes I would make going back, partly because everyone thinks it's a children's book because of the stuffed purple hippopotamus being so prominent.
Right.
I'm keeping Maureen on all my covers as far as I'm concerned, but she can be small. Yeah.
So, okay, you also brought up paneling. So you have also been a panelist
Yes. Yes, I have.
for authors and
Yeah, we
for
kind of
several
stand
other
up there
things.
and we kind of sit up there and we talk about writing and the process and how to get, those kinds of things. I'm trying to remember which panel this one was. Um,
This was from this last year's.
this may have been the panel on imposter syndrome.
Huh, you and I just talked about that a few minutes ago.
We did. We did. Yeah. When I saw that I was on a panel for imposter syndrome, I laughed so hard. And I sent that to my kids and they laughed. You know, like I'm supposed to be attending this panel, not talking on it, but it ended up being the best panel I've ever been on. It was so real and so raw, where we really opened ourselves up, and I just felt a lot closer to my fellow panelists, and I think we were able to show people that this is something that happens, and it happens for a lot of different reasons, and there are a lot of different methods of dealing with it. So
Now, here's something that I find okay. Let me back up a second. Let
okay.
me get my mouse on the right screen here. So, when I first started this, I hope I don't go around the barn too much on this, but when I first started Kickassery, it was really honestly highlighting the people I grew up with, my mentors, the people from Idaho, not necessarily salmon, but Idaho for the most part, but mostly salmon, um, and how nobody knows where salmon is on the map. They can't point to it unless you. There's even Idahoans that don't even know where salmon is.
Oh, we've been discovered a lot more than you think
Yeah,
recently, in the last
lately, as
few
of
years.
lately,
Yeah,
correct.
very,
I
very
agree with that.
recently. Yeah.
With that said, um, there have been such amazing talent that comes out of salmon.
I agree. I agree.
And you had, and I stole all these pictures off your book face. And there's a picture that I absolutely love of a bunch of authors from salmon.
Yeah. And there are a lot more. Those are the ones that I could think of and who agreed to come. I could, like get this, because I put this together um, with the thought that, maybe people would be coming to see, Lance Pickus or Kenny Rainin or Matt Lamont, and then maybe also buy my book.
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
did that did work, actually.
Good. Good. You had a good turnout?
No, we didn't have as good a turnout as we thought we were going to have, but I think what was the best part about it is that gave us time to go to each other's tables and buy each other's books and get the signings and connect. So, they're like, oh yeah, we do all sort of have the same problems and joys, and you know,
Well, this young gentleman right here, he's
yes.
also an ass kicker, Matt
Hmm.
Lamont. He's been on here. I have
Hmm.
his book as well. And oh, look at you.
Oh, and
So
I'm holding Maureen.
yeah, yeah.
That's the
So
that's the purple hippopotamus that's on the book cover. I have a stuffed version of her, and so she's been in the last two pictures you've shown.
yep, I saw those. I love
Good.
it. And it goes back to sorry, I love bragging on salmon and I love bragging on how people in that community work so hard and how creative people are in the salmon area as well. We have significant authors that have come from, that have done historical things and historical books. And on the author side, it's pretty impressive um, what's coming out of that area
Right. Right.
over
So one
the
of
last
those
100 years.
authors, I don't know if you know who he is, but is Lance Pickus. He is the
Hmm.
cowboy ninja on American Ninja Warrior.
This
He's
gentleman right here.
one of the, I think at this point, the oldest ninjas still competing and doing
Hmm.
well, you know.
He shows up every year. What is this?
Yeah. Mhm.
Was this his 12th or 13th season?
Something like that.
Or
Yeah.
probably more. Yeah, he's a rancher.
And
He's
he's a rancher, and he's just this really down to earth, really friendly guy. You know, he's a customer of ours at work, and he's just always polite, and he's never ever going to be one of those that's like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, or, you know, like, I'm super important, you need to, you know, he's just a really nice guy.
well, and his story between him and his wife, their story is incredible, and that's for another day. But
Hmm.
yeah. So I love your cover
Thank
photo.
you. Thank you. I had that done by my nephew's wife. Niece-in-law? Is that how that would be? I don't know.
I have
But
no idea.
yeah, she's was uh, starting a photography business, and I said, "Oh, please bring your camera. I need um a cover photo." So she did, and you know, so I got that from her.
I love it. I think that's an amazing,
So
amazing cover
really
photo.
kind of, if you look at the my book, pretty much everything about it is done by somebody who's just starting out in something. You know, I'm a
Yep.
beginning writer, and there was a beginning illustrator and a beginning book cover designer and a beginning photographer, and I think it turned out pretty well. I think it turned out nicely.
Who's this young gentleman?
That is husband of handiness. That's what I call him online. He's my husband, and we've been married since 1989, and we just celebrated our anniversary. Well, no, okay, it's coming up, but we celebrated it early. We went camping.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Which I kind of screwed up your
Yeah, you
joy
were
of.
making me worried because I'm like, I am in the backside of Montana, you know, just driving along this the Kookanusa Reservoir, you know, like there is no way if that I can actually do this. So I'd respond every time I got to a town where my phone actually worked.
And that was all my fault. It was all my fault. I
But
had the
it's
dates
usually my fault when there's a glitch in
I
understanding.
completely got Brad and your days completely swapped. And,
Yeah.
so I sent, because I mean, when we do these kind of things, it's, we got to do a tech check and I got to make sure that things are okay and our schedule's good. So I'm sending her messages and she's not responding. Okay. All right. Send her a message. No response. That's not Theresa. I mean, because of salmon, because of work, you're not going to immediately respond, but within a day, you're really, really good about that. And then you're like, almost before you sent that message of no, that's not the right date, I had figured it out because I'm like, this is coming up. I got to get this figured out. And Brad sent me a message. He's like, all right, we good for today? I'm like, oh man, I was I was way off. So yes, I caused you some stress that wasn't necessary, and I'm sorry.
Well, it was very momentary because, you know, the minute I'm like, what? You know, when these are coming through, you know, at first I thought you were just talking about next week we'll get together and we'll do these checks. And then it wasn't until kind of the very end where I'm like, wait a minute, is that supposed to be today? Ooh, you know,
No, no, no.
yeah,
So it all worked out. You had a fabulous trip. I got to
I did.
talk with Brad, which was fantabulous. That
And I
dude is
watched
so
that. It
cool.
was really good. Yeah.
He is a cool cat. That man, what he's accomplished, what he's accomplishing, the impact he's had on his family and his community is just, I love that dude so much. So much. So, okay, couple more pictures. I love doing this because it gets a chance to show off a little bit more.
Yes. So those are those are our two first cows. And then we bought another one right before I said we had 3 cows. Uh,
I
now we
love it.
have now we have 6, but 2 we'll be back down to 4. Yeah,
Okay.
soon-ish.
And I love that you are a beekeeper.
Yes. Yes, I love my bees. This year we've been kind of really bad bee parents because we're so involved in the remodel. We just haven't taken the time with them. So really hoping they make it through the winter, that they've because there's at this point there's nothing you can do but hope and wrap.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And then the most flattering picture I've found of you so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in a zombie
Now,
walk and
is this a head injury?
no, it's all fake. I did myself up for a zombie walk. It was our Salmon's first zombie walk. And so I had this fake skin on to make it to get things being all looking like very dead. And my hair got caught in the fake skin.
Oh no.
So yeah, I went as a zombie wood getter. So I had this chainsaw and
I
did the
love it.
shamble thing. But yeah, that was me after the walk, and it was like trying to like get my hair
Peel it
separated from
out.
my face, and my daughter says, "Hold on, Mom, just stop right there." Grabs her camera.
I love it.
Yeah, so
I
that
love
fake
it.
skin is a lot easier to put on than to take off.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So, Theresa, tell me something. What is something that you feel that you have learned either about yourself or in general in the last 5 years? Could be
Right.
uh anything.
I have learned that beating myself up about stuff is absolutely 100% counterproductive. That
Amen.
it takes energy, it drains energy, it destroys creativity. I think, my first real realization was when I was sitting there going, this something I'd said before, but I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever done. And then I stopped and I thought, no, it's not.
Let's be honest about this for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, like no, it's not even in the top 100, And then so that sounds like I'm still putting myself down, which I am, but it's still like saying, wait a minute, that voice that's so insistent isn't accurate. It lies more than AI does.
So, how do you get out of that loop then? How do you get yourself out of that loop?
Um, well, so there's a few things that I've done. Um, the first thing I started was a practice that, so gratefulness and gratitude practices. Well, I had a hard time doing gratitude because I'm like, yeah, I'm grateful. I have the best life in the world. I'm the one that shit. And so then I started this practice called Small Happies, where I'd find these little things that could bring me a moment of just goodness. So I get a freebie every day because of the mountains is such a beautiful scene here that I get beauty every day. So if there's something that tastes good or somebody that says something funny and it's outside of me, it's things that I don't have control over, like then I collect them almost so that I can at the end of the day say, I had this, I had this, I had this. So I have to have at least one every day. And at one point that was hard. But then the second is just watching and catching myself, telling myself, gosh, you talk too much again. And then just say, well, that's part of who you are. And it probably wasn't that bad. Like just try to reframe things
Right.
where you would try to say the same thing in a very different light. Like, okay, I'm saying I talk too much, but I had a good time if I'm not in the middle of saying I'm a bad person. So I enjoyed the conversation. That's why I got so excited and animated, and excited and animated aren't terrible things. And then I have had just random things that have helped me. I had one story where I was at a writer's retreat. I talk about it like I go to them all the time. I've only been to one, but I was at a writer's retreat, and somebody asked me the question about how many children do you have, and I answered with the standard, "That's complicated," and was explaining things. And then, in addition to I said, and then I had all of these kids that just hung out of my house, and they were Mama Miller's kids.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady goes, "Oh, I wish I'd had a Mama Miller when I was, that age." And I didn't say anything because, when that voice starts speaking, you're just like, okay, well, thank you. I don't know what to say. But later, back in my room, I was arguing with her in my head. And I said, "You just don't understand. You don't understand. I can't manage money. We were always broke. I don't have that emotional regulation. Oh, the house was always a mess. I would yell. Oh my God, I'm Molly Weasley. And I love
Right.
Molly Weasley.
Right.
And I was like, all of these things that I bash myself about all the time are things that I love in this character.
Mm-hmm.
That make up this character that I really admire. So it helps, and that's part of just the reframing where you say, okay. And then John helped me also one time. He decided to name that piece of my brain that tells me how terrible I am. And
Okay.
so that piece of my brain's name is Carla.
Okay.
So it's really, really helpful to, once you realize, yes, this piece of the brain lies. And it can be very, very convincing, but it's not, but what it says is really suspicious, like really suspect. As the kids would say, sus, although I think I hear that's going out of fashion now. And I'm absolutely using it wrong. But so it's really easy. It's really nice to be able to say, "Shut up, Carla.
Yeah.
You weren't invited to this." And also to say things like, "Okay, Carla, I see the evidence. I see what you're producing. Now give me some evidence." Huh, that's an interesting perspective, Carla.
I
Apologize.
like that.
Apologies to anybody out there named Carla. It's a lovely name. But it is good to have a name to be able to
I
say,
have an aunt, Carla. How dare you?
"I know, and I'm sure she's a lovely woman, and you don't want to talk to her that way." Like, shut up. Nobody invited you to this party.
Right. Right.
I'm having fun. I don't need you. The things, but it is helpful to have a name.
So by, in a way, compartmentalizing
Compartmentalizing. So it's not
and
really, two personalities. It's just saying, okay, this part of my brain does this, and this part of it, which I'd already had a little bit of practice with writing, because creative self and editor self are very, very different parts of the brain, and they do not play well together. So I already had to be like, okay, this piece of my brain, let's take a break here, and okay, this piece of my brain, it's safe to come out and play now. So I'd had a little bit of practice with that compartmentalizing already, and I just find it useful. Some people might not, but I do.
well, and some of us are better at it than others. I believe that's a skill that to be able to block it up and to go, okay, I'm going to set these thoughts over here and I'm going to set these thoughts over there, and you stay there, and then we're going to work through it. Some of us have that capacity better than others, and I think it's something that we can
So do you think that's an
work on.
innate thing or a skill? Because a skill is a learnable thing. So
I,
is it a
I believe.
talent or a skill?
I believe it's a skill that can be developed. I do. I feel that because it's just like what you've been talking about, is going through your meditation and going through your process of being more okay with you. I love your collecting your happies for the day. There are people who struggle with that, and touch on that real quick, collecting happies. My daughter, she's 11, and a handful of years ago when she'd go to bed and she had, to us adults, irrational fears. And it's like, okay, going through that process of what's a real fear, what's irrational fear. And at that age, it's all real fear. It's not, there's no compartmentalizing it. And so we would sit there and we'd go through our prayers and then be like, okay, count your blessings for the day, count your happies for the day. And what were the good things that happened today that were really good, that made you happy, that made you smile? And that was a process. And where I'm getting with this is I think it's a learnable skill, because at the beginning, she's like, I don't, huh? It's just what
Yeah.
happened today.
Hmm.
I'm like, no, you had breakfast today. Other kids didn't have breakfast. So that's a happy, that's a good. You got to play this, you got to do this in school. Your friend said this nice thing to you today. It is too easy to go and take the 3 or 4, 2 or 3 things that happen for the day, because it's easier for a
Right.
lot of
Well,
us.
I think that it's much, much easier to look at the positive things if you know at the end of the day, somebody's going to be waiting for your report. So it really helps to have,
I
I
like
had
that.
a small happies buddy. And at the end of the day, we would have to say today's small happy was, or in maybe the next beginning of next day, yesterday's small happy was. But you know that somebody's waiting for that report. So then you have to pay attention, right?
It's the red car scenario. If you drive around town and I ask, how many red cars did you see today? How many
I
red
would
cars?
have no idea.
But if I said, driving around town today, I want to know how many red cars you see, you're going to look for them.
Right, right. Yeah. That
Yes. I like that. I like that. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So a lot of
Because,
people have accountability partners, and I guess this is an accountability partner of a type. But like if anyone's wanting to get into this practice, just find yourself a happy partner. Like I want to know your happies, and you want to know mine.
yeah, genuinely.
Yeah, I like
Genuinely.
hearing other people's happies.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. This is one of my happies today.
What is it?
Right now.
Oh, right now. Yes, mine too. I thought you were going to reveal something else though. So tell
No,
me another happy from today.
another happy from today is um picking through them. I love making my kids breakfast in the morning.
That's wonderful.
So that was one of my happies today. And like you said, that's almost a given. Beautiful outside. I'm in the tropics, so I have palm trees and banana trees around the house. Those are easy happies. But they're still happies because we choose to make them.
Well, and because I mean, we're looking for it. We're like, oh yeah, that really is beautiful, instead of just it's part of the everyday scenery, so we're not paying any attention.
Oh, another happy. Sorry. This
Go
one,
for it. I want to hear it.
I've got myself a little container garden, because I'm really looking forward to. I've never lived in a place where it had no seasons, so I'm wanting to see how a year-round garden looks like. I've never experienced that.
That I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes for you.
Yeah, me too. So, but I've also never gardened where there's this much rain. It
Yeah.
rains. Now, granted, we're in the monsoon season, but it rains 6, 8 times a day. And I mean, it's not a trickle, it's a rain.
That's really hard for my poor semi-arid desert mountain brain to wrap around.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And so imagine with that, where it's warm and rainy all the time, you also are going to have a lot more problems with bugs.
So far, yes, there are lots of bugs here, but so far there's not. I was expecting to be like inundated with mosquitoes and just be nasty. No. Now, my wife and my daughter are mosquito magnets. My wife, oh my gosh, Brandon, she opens the door 3.5 minutes later, she's got 3 mosquito bites, and none of us seen a mosquito. Um, so anywhere she can go to Antarctica and find mosquitoes. I swear it. With that said, though, is the bugs here are really cool. We've got these, and I don't know if they're centipedes or millipedes, but we've got the 75,000 leg little critters running around. Those are super cool. Lots of slugs, and lots of butterflies.
I see those slugs. Those are going to be a problem that you will have to learn how to deal with in your gardening.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I also have in my little garden are tons of geckos. So we have these little, well, they're
That'd be
about
so
this big.
cool.
Super cool little geckos. And there's about 5 or 6 that's taken up residence in my little container garden. And I've got about 5 toads that have set up around. And I haven't seen any slugs.
That's wonderful.
I did see a snail in there this morning. That was kind of cool. But yeah, it's so back to the garden. The happy this morning was I had planted carrots. I had never done carrots in a container garden before. So I was like, let's try it. And it's all from seed. And I was like, oh, they didn't take. Man. So I set that container to the side. I was out there looking this morning and I see this random container that had a bunch of sprouts in it. I'm like, what the heck? It was the carrots. They finally sprouted like a week and a half later than what they were supposed to. But I'm like, okay, cool. That's pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
my neighbor gave me, he had sprouted a bunch of papaya and he gave me 8 or 10 sprouts. And so I threw those in a container and they're starting to come up. So those are my morning happies from the garden.
Those are wonderful. Yeah.
So
Garden happies are good happies too. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
I'm
guess all
enjoying it.
happies are good. Well, maybe not all. If you enjoy murdering people, it's probably not a good, a good happy, but
That's personal happy, but not a societal happy.
well, I don't think it's a good happy at all. I mean, just
Period.
like
No, we're just not going to say it.
there are a few happies that aren't good, but garden happies are always good happies. Here I'm judging your happies. Is this? I mean, like, is this a happy that I approve of or not?
This is a Theresa endorsed happy. We're
That's
good.
right. That's right. And notice where I put the bar: murder for fun.
This
I mean, if it's because somebody needed killing, that's different. Okay. I think about murder a lot since I started writing murder mysteries.
I remember you where were we? You're like, so where were we? I don't remember. And you're like, so if I were going to kill somebody in this environment, how would I do it? And I remember John and I were like, well, so we were in public too. And I think Summer was with us and she's like, guys, we probably shouldn't talk about this at a restaurant. And I mean, John, I think we were talking about how to murder somebody in a restaurant, and we were in a restaurant or something to that effect.
Something, yeah.
And John and I just jumped into it. Well, so strychnine works this way, but lead works that way.
So this is when I was doing the research for the book that's out now.
Okay.
So I'm just like, okay, if you're going to slip, so basically I need my character to die in this kind of way and this kind of time frame with these sorts of warning signs. What poison could it logically be? And we're just having this great discussion about poisons. Yeah, and Summer's like, guys,
let's not
the appropriate place for this. So it wasn't that long ago when for this book, I might be giving spoilers, but I went up to the barista that owns the coffee shop I was writing in, and I says, So, okay, picture this. You've pushed somebody down the stairs. It was a bad fall. They're terribly hurt, but they're not dead. And you're going to finish them off by bashing them in the head. What coffee related item do you bash them in the head with? And she just answered. She's like, oh yeah, totally one of these. I'm like, cool. What's it called? You know,
Done. So did we just get an exclusive?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. That there's for the next book called Coffee, Covens, and Corpses.
And how, okay. Now, all right. How far are
That's why
you?
it had to be coffee related, you see.
Yeah, of course. So how far are you along with that one?
Oh, that's a terrible, terrible question because
Okay, I retract my question.
I stopped writing when I was just like really struggling with the remodel and I just couldn't do
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
So this book that I should be more than halfway done with, I'm working on chapter 2. So
Well, if it's a 4-chapter book, you're halfway there.
right. Yeah. I think that, but they're not that long of chapters.
It's a dime store novel.
It's a dime store, as thin as a dime. As thin as a
Yeah.
dime. There you go.
So there you go.
I don't think that gets to be called a novel, though. I think that's a short story or a novelette.
You're talking
Novella.
to somebody that has no clue what those definitions are. So
And also, it's
I
my book. I can call it what I want to, right?
exactly. Screw you guys. I'm self-publishing this thing anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Your labels mean nothing to me.
I love it. I
But I still
absolutely
do
love it.
have to go through, the murder and the investigation and the, you know, all of these other things.
So as a how and this is you and I are going to need I want to get I want to do this again, Theresa, and I want to get you and John and Matt's eyeball busy. So
I know the only time we live in the same town, and the only time I see him is either when I organize a book signing with him in it or you come to town. Just
so
because
should I feel bad about that or privileged? I definitely
privilege.
feel privileged.
Yeah, because he shows up when like he actually gets out of his busy schedule to show up.
That man. Oh man,
Yeah, he
that
does so
dude
many
works
things.
his
He does
face off.
so many things. Yeah, he's just
Face off. Anyway, what
he
I'm
does.
getting at is I want to get you and Matt and I would love to get Jennifer Quinn because she's one of our ass kickers who's a published author. Danny Ferrer, he just published a book. I'm almost finished with his book.
Mhm.
And I would love to do like an authors panel for Kickassery.
That'd be
And
awesome.
you guys, because I
That'd be really
know
amazing.
Danny went the publishing way, so he has a publisher, but
Oh,
it's a
that's good.
small veteran owned and ran publisher,
Okay.
which is super cool. It's not one of the big publishing houses. They're very niche and they're very focused, which I think super cool. And I believe everyone else has self-published.
Yeah, it'd be really neat to have somebody that also went the Big Five way. Big Five meaning the really big publishers. But only if we find someone. So that
Yeah,
we have that balance, right?
right,
But I
right.
know that publishing is in a state where a lot of authors that even had been traditionally published are starting to go self-published. So it's not an indictment of the quality of the work like maybe once it might have been. It's just if I self-publish, I get to keep a lot more of the per book sales.
Yeah,
And the trade-off from that would be that the big publishers would do the marketing for me, but now they're just not doing as much of that
really.
for their
Authors.
authors. So there's
It
a lot
also
of stuff where
truncates the
there's
timeline too, doesn't it?
yes, you can do it a lot faster if you're doing it by yourself.
Because you're not going
And
through multiple editors and you're not going through the cover art process and all
I
of
mean,
that,
you still
which
go through that. You have to do it all yourself, right?
right.
If you're doing it. So you still have to figure out who your cover artist is going to be and, how you're going to communicate with them and, how much you're going to pay for that. You still have to do all of this, all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think the big thing is you don't have that stamp of legitimacy. You don't have that where this person, this person, this person have all got together, and you don't have that them providing an editor for you. So you either have to hire your own editor or you have to trust your own. So I had, I think, 6 or 8 first readers that I sent it to that agreed to just read through it and give me feedback. And so then I had that process of going through that. So that's similar to what you would be doing with an editor if you were doing it traditional. So you just have to make sure that all of those things are in place, that you're not just jumping the gun and publishing it before it's ready, but you're still actually publishing it before you die, because nothing's ever quite ready, right? That
Fair.
as the creator, you're going to say, there's more I could do on this.
That could have been
So,
better. I could have swapped this. I could have, yeah. Coulda, woulda,
yeah.
shoulda.
Yeah, those things happen. But if you're going to self-publish, it really helps to be able to realize that, okay, they're not providing this for me, so I need to provide it for myself.
So with that as well, there's not as many bookstores as there once were. And I don't even have a clue how you get your product into a library anymore. But as a self-publisher, if you, what am I trying to say? How am I trying to say this? The marketing aspect of it is grassroots, and it's depending on, I would assume, depending on the genre, getting that Amazon top seller list and getting on these non-New York Times top seller lists or top list. Is it easier now, or is it harder now because writing a book is more accessible? So is the market flooded?
Well, I think it's really hard. It's harder to get noticed because there's so much more noise.
Okay.
And so there's going to be a lot of people that will never see any of my books, right? I can't remember the number that I had seen that of books published, new books on Amazon every day, like 10,000 or something,
Wow.
So then it's up to you to try to figure out, how do I get eyeballs on this? But also, how much time am I willing to spend on that? Because I also want to write the next book. And that's the part that I got into this for, but you do it with book signings and with social media and with recommendations. So, hey, everyone, if you read my book and you like it, tell everyone else. If you don't like it, tell me. Okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Be
Actually,
comfort.
and also, if you don't like it, it's fine to leave a review saying you don't like it.
Right.
I'd appreciate if you say why you don't like it. So then if somebody who maybe would like it could look at it and say, oh, well, that's not something I have a problem with.
Doesn't affect me.
It doesn't affect me. Yeah. So some people like more detail in a book, more visual detail, and some people like less. And so, yeah.
So looking back in your accomplishments, looking back at your life, your ups and downs, your trials and tribulations, your what piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
I mean, I want to say, don't date that boy, but not the one I'm with. But
yeah, but that led you to the one you're with.
Right. So I think it would be, first of all, you are way stronger and way cooler than you think you are. And stop beating yourself up about stuff. Also, the reasons that everyone think you're weird are things that you don't want to change about yourself anyhow, so just quit trying.
And look at what that weirdness has led you to.
Yeah, I still most of the time don't know why people think I'm weird, but weirdness is just like people are like, "You're weird." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you. That's very
That's
nice."
subjective.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
finally found somebody was from high school was talking to me. He's like, "Oh, she was so weird. You go to her house and there were books everywhere. They're always reading." And I'm like, "That was it. I take it.
okay.
I take it. Yeah, yeah.
I'll accept
Look at
that.
that. Yeah." That's just
So what you're saying then is accept your weirdness as a strength.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And don't try to change yourself to be what you think other people want you to be.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Theresa, you're awesome.
You are awesome too. And so, for anyone watching this either live or later on, don't forget to hit that like button and follow because kickassery is absolute kickassery. And Dale is just, he finds these people, most of them are a lot more accomplished. Well, okay, I'm not saying that
Wait a
right?
minute. Didn't we just have a
Did we
conversation
just have
about
this
that?
conversation? So yeah, but no, he brings out Dale absolutely brings out the best in people, and he knows so many people, and he is so easy to talk to, and he's funny. So yeah, keep on watching.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Theresa.
All right,
You are a rock star. I appreciate you. Guys, everything she just said,
yeah,
she said it better. Just so you know.
it's because I have
So
all the words,
you have all of them.
all
All of them.
all the words.
I have 3. So with that, Theresa, stay on for a second. Everybody else, have a rock star kind of day. Keep smiling and go squish somebody's face. Talk to you soon.